Yo, what's up, guys? It's Noah here, breaking down the NBA slate on Draftkings and Yahoo for Wednesday, January the 22nd. We do have a big slate for Wednesday, 12 games. We're gonna go through this slate position by position, just talk about the players that stand out to me the most. Looking at the slate the night before, we will talk about Draftkings pricing, and we'll talk about guys that I do like for Yahoo as well. Just before we do get started, as always, I would appreciate it if you would drop a like down below. If you do enjoy these videos, the best way that you can support me is by dropping a like. If you are new, if you have not subscribed yet, you can also hit that subscribe button as well. You can click that notification bell so that way you don't miss out on any of my new uploads. You will get notified every time I do upload. Also, if you want to, as you can see down below in the bottom right hand corner, you can follow me on Twitter at DFS by Noah. I am very active over on Twitter, so if you want to give me a follow over there, I would greatly appreciate it. You can also check out all the exclusive content that I do have to offer over on Patreon. I didn't have anything up for Tuesday. There was only one game on Tuesday. It was kind of weird, just a showdown slate, so I pretty much took Tuesday off, but obviously I'll be back Wednesday breaking down this slate. I'll have my article up in the afternoon. I'll give updated core plays as well. I'll post those usually an hour or two before lock over on Patreon, because you guys know with NBA things can change. The core plays that I give out in this video those core plays aren't necessarily the core plays I'm going to be rolling with in my lineups, because as you know, injuries happen throughout the day. Guys will show up to shoot around and don't feel like playing. Guys will get ruled out unexpectedly. So I do provide a lot of updated and in-depth content over on Patreon that you can check out. My article, like I said, my core plays. I do have a Discord chat as well that you can join. We have close to 100 people in there right now. It's just a lot of people in there talking DFS throughout the day. Trying to help each other out in terms of building lineups. I'm in there up until lock, answering questions, helping you guys build out your lineups as well. So check out the Patreon, follow me on Twitter, like and subscribe, and let's go ahead and take a look at Wednesday's slate, 12-gamer. Starting off at point guard, gonna be a lot to talk about. I'll try and just mainly hit on the options that stand out to me the most. I'm not gonna talk about every single player. Really want to kind of narrow down the player pool, just kind of what I'm liking as of Tuesday night, what I'm seeing. So at the top of the point guard position, you got guys like Harden, LeBron, Westbrook at the top here. Honestly, don't think any of these three guys are going to be like core plays for me on Wednesday. Like James Harden, 11-2, is a little bit underpriced, but he just hasn't been performing at that high of a level recently. He's definitely been in a little bit of a slump. It is a tough matchup as well against Denver. Like Denver's a really good defensive team. They haven't been like as elite defensively just as of late, but if you look at defensive rating, pretty sure Denver's still like in the middle of the pack this season. See if I can find them. Yeah, they're 11th in defensive rating. I mean, losing Jamal Murray, Gary Harris, Paul Millsap, even Mason Plumlee, all four of those guys are going to be out today. That's obviously not going to help their defense, but I just don't know if this is a slate that I want to prioritize Harden. Same with LeBron against the Knicks. Like, obviously LeBron could put up a big game against the Knicks, but with Anthony Davis back, he's going to take away usage from LeBron. He's still expensive on DraftKings, so don't have a ton of interest in him. And then Westbrook, he's actually been playing very well recently. Been putting up massive games, at least 56 DraftKings points in 4 straight games, has 3 games over 60 DK points. Like, honestly, if I'm going to pay it for somebody like over 9K, it's probably going to be Westbrook, but I still don't love any of these guys at the top. Trae Young against the Clippers, like that's a tough matchup for him. He's going to see a lot of Patrick Beverley, might even see some defense from Kawhi. Obviously, Trae Young has the upside to put up a ceiling game against anybody. I mean, even in a tough matchup against Toronto, he was still able to put up 73 DraftKings points. 42 points, 15 assists, 6 rebounds. Like, it'd be close between like Trae Young and Westbrook on who I'd prefer to go to. Given that Young's a little bit better of a point per minute player, I'd probably side with him, but honestly don't feel like any of these top options are going to be like core plays for me today. I think this mid-range is where we can find some good plays, like in the 7 and 6K range. Drew Holiday returned from injury, looked really good in his first game back, was not limited at all, played 32 minutes, had 52 DraftKings points. He did get priced up to 8,100. Zion is expected to play for the Pelicans, which is kind of big. He's going to take away usage from a lot of these guys. I know Zion's going to be limited in his first game with the team, but 8,100, probably don't consider Drew Holiday like a must-play or a core play by any means. D'Angelo Russell's still going to see a ton of usage, so you could always go to him. 8K against the Jazz, but that's not like the most optimal spot that I want to kind of prioritize. In the 7K range, though, I think this is where we can find some really intriguing options. A guy like Malcolm Brogdon really stands out, 7,100 against the Suns. I do like him quite a bit today. I think Brogdon's just a little bit underpriced. I mean, I know since returning from injury, like he had one big game, his first game back from injury against the Sixers, 46 DK points in 34 minutes. Since then, the game log isn't great, 37, 34, 37, 16 DraftKings points. Obviously, 36, 37 DK points is not what you want at 7,100. Like if you're playing Brogdon at this price tag, you want him to put up 40 plus DK points. Even though he hasn't done it as of late, I still think Brogdon's a guy that you can target at this salary. I mean, we can look at his usage this season. He's still been a great fantasy point per minute player. It is a very favorable matchup against the Suns. The Suns do play at a relatively fast pace. Looking at pace this season, they are a top 10 team in pace. They rank 10th in pace. Looking at defensive rating, they're kind of middle of the pack, 19th in defensive rating. Like it is a very favorable matchup for Brogdon. He's still the second highest usage, or he actually leads the team in usage, leads the Pacers in usage this season, near 27%, averaging 1.16 fantasy points per minute, 37% assist percentage. Like I still really like Brogdon at this salary. I think you can definitely consider him today at 7,100. Lou Williams, I do also want to talk about, 7,300 on DraftKings. I think this is a really good spot for Lou Williams. His price is expensive, but where he really stands out, in my opinion, is Yahoo. If we go over here, look at Yahoo's pricing, I think both Brogdon and Williams stand out. Brogdon's at $28, Lou Will's at $27. I really like Lou Will at $27 on Yahoo. I think that's a very nice price tag for him, especially in a matchup against the Hawks. I mean, this is a spot where Lou Williams could easily put up a ceiling game. You look at the matchup, I mean, in terms of pace, we know the Hawks are a very fast-paced team. They play at the 6th fastest pace in the league. Looking at defensive rating, they are a terrible defensive team, 27th in defensive rating. In terms of defending point guards, they are terrible defensively against point guards. Trae Young, one of the worst defenders in the league. And the Clippers are on a back-to-back, so that is one thing worth noting. But Paul George did sit out Tuesday, and because it's a back-to-back, I imagine that Paul George is going to be out again today. And if we just look at usage this season, Lou Williams does have a 30% usage rate, averaging over 1.2 fantasy points per minute, 33% assist percentage this season with Paul George off the floor. Like his numbers see a really big spike. He sees a 2% bump in usage, 0.10% or 0.10 like points up in his fantasy point per minute average. Like all these guys, pretty much the main three, like Lou Will, Montrezl Harrell, Kawhi, all three of those guys do see pretty nice bumps with Paul George off the floor. And like I said, it's a back-to-back. I'm assuming PG remains out, in which I will have a lot of interest in Lou Will. I mean, for what it's worth, Lou Will was able to put up 40 DraftKings points in only 22 minutes earlier this season against the Hawks, and I believe that was with both Paul George and Kawhi playing. So I think there's plenty of upside for Lou Will, especially if this game can stay close, which in Atlanta, I think it's much more likely to stay close. I don't think we have a line on this game. Let's see here. Atlanta. Yeah, we don't have a line on this game yet. Atlanta's probably going to be like maybe 7-8 point home underdogs, which, I mean, I think this game could stay close. So Lou Will probably gets 30, 32 minutes, and in a fast-paced game against the Hawks, I do have a ton of interest in him. Lonzo definitely took a hit last game with Drew coming back. Wasn't very productive, only 31 DraftKings points in 34 minutes. Now that Zion's back as well, or now that Zion's able to play, like that's not great for Lonzo. His price has come down a little bit, though. I mean, he's down to 6,800 on DK. So I still do have a little bit of interest in him, but obviously wouldn't be like a core play for me. Kyle Lowry and Fred VanVleet, like both these guys look very intriguing at their salaries. Lowry's only 6,600 on DK. He's also been pretty disappointing as of late, but his price has plummeted. Like he was 8K on the last slate against the Hawks, and now he's down to 6,600. Like Kyle Lowry is still going to be a guy that plays 36, 38 minutes if the game's close. His minutes have been down recently, but I don't really know why that is. I mean, 28, 29 minutes seems a little iffy. This is going to be a guy that plays 34, 36 plus minutes when games are close. This game should be close against the Sixers. It's a tough matchup, but Kyle Lowry is very cheap. I have a lot of interest in him at 6,600. Fred VanVleet as well at the same salary. I do like quite a bit. This is another guy that's going to play 34, 36 minutes if the game's close. His minutes have been down recently, but I don't really take that into account. Like, I really like both those guys, and I think both those guys really stand out on DraftKings today, Lowry and VanVleet. Their prices, like, they're $1,000 to $1,500 too cheap. Like, I don't know why those guys are so cheap today. But then other point guards we can maybe look to. In the 5K range, there really isn't much that stands out here. Like, if Paul George remains out, you could look to Patrick Beverley for $5,400. He's going to be needed here to guard Trae Young. We know Beverly's going to get pretty big minutes if the game is close. these 23, 21-minute games, like those were blowouts. Against the Pelicans, that was a close game, and he played 31 minutes. Like Beverly has actually shown some upside recently with Paul George out. He's been able to contribute in all categories, getting points, getting rebounds, getting assists. 5,400, he would be in play for me. But I think I would slightly prefer Dejounte Murray, and I really like Dejounte Murray at his DraftKings salary. Only 5,200 today in a really good matchup against the Pelicans. He definitely stands out to me on DK. Now, this is obviously a guy that's like very iffy to roster. You never feel good putting Murray into your lineups because he's so risky, I guess you could say. His minutes are always up and down. Like, he had a monster game against the Hawks, put up 42 DraftKings points in 33 minutes. Next game against the Heat, obviously a tougher matchup, but he only plays 22 minutes, 13 DK points. 24 minutes against the Suns, 27 DK points. Like, his minutes are always going to be up and down, but this is definitely a matchup where if Murray gets 30 to 32 minutes, I mean, he has 40-point upside in this matchup. Fast-paced game. Pelicans are 5th in pace this season. They're a terrible defensive team. They're 26 in defensive rating. Murray's probably going to be needed here to guard a guy like Lonzo, to guard Drew Holiday. Like, I really like him at 5,200. I think there's a lot of upside for him to pay off this price tag, and I think he does have a lot more upside than some of the guys in that 5K price range. So definitely like Dejounte Murray at point guard. And that's probably it for me for value plays at point guard. I guess like Mike Conley will need to keep an eye on. He's played 2 games since coming back from injury. He's been limited in those 2 games, and he's come off the bench in both those games, 15 and 18 minutes. Like, if he's going to start and get back to maybe 26, 28 minutes, he could be a play, but we just don't have that news right now. We'll have to wait and see there. I'm assuming he's still going to come off the bench and be limited. I mean, Jeff Teague's really cheap at 4K. He's played 2 games with the Hawks since he got traded, 25 minutes in the first game and then 11 minutes in the second game. Jeff Teague's going to be a very risky guy to roster, but at 4K, there is some upside for him at this salary. If he's going to get 24 to 26 minutes, he could close out alongside Trae Young. I don't know if they did that in that game against Detroit. I mean, that was a blowout, but at 4K, he'd be in play for me as like a sort of GPP value play. It's going to be probably incredibly low owned. Let's go ahead and move on to shooting guard now. We'll talk about this position. So at the top here, nothing really stands out at the top. Like Zach LaVine, you could look to at 9K, but he's very expensive on DraftKings. It is a good matchup. Pace-up spot here for the Bulls. Timberwolves are a fast-paced team. They're not really that good defensively. But yeah, paying for LaVine at 9K, I don't ever feel like I have to pay that price tag for him. LaVine never feels like a guy I have to have in my lineups when he's that expensive. If you're going to play him, like, you can maybe do it on Yahoo at $41, but even then, that still feels pretty expensive. So I don't really want to go to Zach LaVine. Don't love a ton of the shooting guards at the top. Like, Devin Booker has upside, obviously. Jimmy Butler has a lot of upside against the Wizards. 8,500 for Jimmy Butler. That'd probably be, like, my favorite guy to go to. But the Heat are fully healthy right now. Butler is going to take some use, or he's going to lose some usage, like, with the Heat fully healthy. He's not going to get massive minutes. Like, he's not going to play the 36, 38 minutes he was getting during that stretch where they were really injury depleted. He's probably going to get 34, 35 minutes. Against the Wizards, I mean, there's upside for Jimmy Butler, but I just don't feel like I need to pay that price tag for him. I think the guy that really stands out to me at shooting guard, if I'm going to pay up, is Bradley Beal. I mean, Bradley Beal's price tag has just plummeted on DraftKings. He's down to 7,200 today. We finally saw him get back to big minutes. I mean, 33 minutes in his last game against Detroit. That was the most minutes that he's played since coming back from injury. 33 minutes and had 39, nearly 40 DraftKings points. Like, it's a tough matchup against the Heat without a doubt, but if Bradley Beal's going to get back to his 34, 35 minutes at 7,200, like, that's still an incredibly cheap price tag for Bradley Beal if he's going to be playing his full minutes. You can look at his usage this season. I mean, he's still been a very high usage player, averaging over like 1.3 fantasy points per minute, or close to that at least. Has a 32.5% usage rate this season, averaging 1.25 fantasy points per minute with over a 28% assist percentage. I do really like Bradley Beal at his DraftKings salary. I think he definitely stands out as one of the better shooting guard options in this price range. Fred VanVleet, I do like as well. I think he's very underpriced today at 6,600. Scrolling through shooting guard, looking for other options. Not much that stands out in the 5K range in terms of like core plays. Maybe Joe Ingles you could look to at 5,300. But now that Mike Conley's back, that's going to take minutes away from Joe Ingles. So honestly, I think that's it for shooting guard in terms of like value plays. I don't really see any cheap options here that I really want to go to. I think the guy that stands out to me the most, honestly, is like Fred VanVleet at 6,600, Bradley Beal at 7,200. I like both those guys quite a bit. Lou Williams as well, you could target against the Hawks. Well, let's go ahead and move on to small forward now. Talking about small forward in the top of this position, you got LeBron, Kawhi, Ben Simmons at the top here. I mean, Kawhi looks very intriguing against the Hawks. Like, that's a matchup where Kawhi should just have a ton of success, especially if Paul George remains out. I would have some interest in Kawhi, but I mean, 10,500 is a pretty hefty price tag to pay for him. It is a back-to-back. We don't know yet if he's going to play. Like, that is something worth monitoring. I don't think he's played at all in back-to-backs this season. I didn't think about that. Like, if Paul George, like, there's a chance Paul George and Kawhi could both be out today, which would make a guy like Lou Williams probably a must-play on both sides. I'm not going to put Lou Williams in the DraftKings score, but that is going to be something to monitor since the Clippers do play on Tuesday. Like, is Kawhi going to play today? I have no idea. I don't think he's played at all in back-to-backs this season. I'm going to pull up his game log real quick on Yahoo since they have the whole season. Let's see here. See if there's any days where he played back-to-back. Don't see any yet. Still don't see any. 2013, 7-3. Yeah, he hasn't played at all in a back-to-back this season. So, honestly, Kawhi might be out today, which is kind of big. Let's look at these Clippers guys first. Let's go back to the Clippers. Let's see if any of these guys got priced up. So, Lou Will's 7,300, Harold's 6,800, Jermichael Green's 4,400, Zubac's 41, Harkless is 39. Like, man, we'll have to dive more deeper into this on Wednesday. I don't know if we're going to get Kawhi news like late. Like, I'm recording this at 9 o'clock Eastern time Tuesday night. The Clippers game's going on right now as I'm recording this video. So we might not get that news till Wednesday, but definitely keep an eye on that. Kawhi could be out today. He honestly could be out since it's a back-to-back. So going to be something worth monitoring. Definitely would open up a lot of potential value from the Clippers. I'll try and touch on that as we go through like power forward center. We'll talk more about that. If Kawhi plays, I mean, he's in play, especially if Paul George remains out, but I still wouldn't consider him like a core option today. Brandon Ingram I don't really love now that Drew's back, now that Zion's playing as well. I don't love Brandon Ingram at his salary. DeMar DeRozan has some upside in this matchup against the Pelicans. I never feel like I have to play DeMar DeRozan, especially when it's like a full slate. Probably could look elsewhere. Will Barton I do like quite a bit on Yahoo. He still remains a little bit too cheap over there, $26. With all the injuries to Denver right now, no Drew Holiday, no Jamal Murray, no Gary Harris, no Paul Millsap. Mason Plumlee's going to be out as well. Like, Denver's going to be really injury depleted tonight. They're going to be really thin. They're definitely going to be a team worth targeting. So I think you could look to Barton at $26 on Yahoo. Still like Bradley Beal, you can play him as small forward. MPJ, though, I want to talk about him over on Yahoo. So he's been on an absolute tear recently. You just look at his game log. Given the injuries to the Nuggets, like, MPJ's been able to get pretty big minutes the last 5 games. He's played 19, 27, 29, 22, and 29 minutes the last 5 games. They're still going to start Torrey Craig, especially for this matchup against Houston. I do expect Torrey Craig to start. Craig's a really good defender. They'll use him on James Harden. They'll use him on Russell Westbrook. But I still expect MPJ to get probably 25 to 30 minutes off the bench. He's been an incredibly productive player this season when given minutes. He's a great scorer. He can rebound as well. And he's still only $15 on Yahoo. So he looks like one of the best value plays over on Yahoo today. It is very tough to get to him on DraftKings. I know he's been really good recently, but $6,600 for Michael Porter Jr. is a pretty hefty price tag to pay. I mean, he's going to need to put up over 40 DraftKings points to be like a really good tournament play at this salary. Obviously, he has that kind of upside in him, but I still think there is quite a bit of risk with Michael Porter Jr. just because you don't know what his minutes are going to look like. Mike Malone might decide to play Torrey Craig 34 minutes and only give Porter Jr. like 22 minutes. Yahoo, there's really not much risk rostering him at $15. Like, even if he gets 22 minutes, he could still put up 30 fantasy points, which is still really good at $15. So if I'm going to target MPJ today, it's probably going to be over on Yahoo. But I do want to talk about Gordon Hayward. I think Gordon Hayward really stands out on DraftKings at his $5,800 salary. I mean, Gordon Hayward's just too cheap on DraftKings. There's a chance Jaylen Brown could be out for the Celtics. That'll be something we need to monitor heading into Wednesday's slate and just heading into Wednesday afternoon. Jaylen Brown is questionable. If he were to miss, that would obviously open up more usage, more opportunity for a guy like Gordon Hayward, more opportunity for Kemba Walker, for Jason Tatum. Even with the Celtics fully healthy, even if Brown does play, like, Gordon Hayward's not a $5,800 player. I mean, this guy should be near $7K pretty much every night. I mean, you look at his game log. I know game logs aren't everything, but most nights this guy's giving you 30 plus DraftKings points. And at 5,800, especially in a fast-paced game against Memphis, nice pace-up spot here. The Grizzlies are third in pace this season. I really like Gordon Hayward as DK salary. I think he really stands out as one of the better options to go to at small forward today. And if Jaylen Brown winds up sitting this game, then Gordon Hayward would be an even better play at 5,800. But then other small forwards, if we're looking for value here, I don't think there's really any cheap plays that I love that really stand out. OG's only 4,200, so I guess if you wanted to go to him, like he could be a fine value play. He's been really risky just recently. I mean, only 24 and 21 minutes. Still 4,200 for OG. If he's going to play like 30 minutes, he would definitely be in play for me. We just don't know if he's going to get the 30 minutes, so that's kind of what makes him risky. But I think that's it for small forwards. So let's go ahead and move on to power forward now and talk about this position. So at the top of the power forward position, you got AD at the top, 9,900 against the Knicks. Really good matchup for Anthony Davis, but we don't know yet what we're going to get from him. He returned to action against Boston. I believe that was Thursday, or not Thursday night, but I think Monday night against Boston, MLK Day. AD did return to the lineup. It was a blowout against Boston. They lost by over 30 points. He only played 23 minutes, just 22 DraftKings points. Wasn't very productive. That was a tough matchup, but even if AD is able to, we need to know if he's going to be full go. If he's going to be limited, I'm not going to play AD at 9,900. If he's a full go though and not going to have a minutes restriction, I mean, he's definitely one of the better stud options given his price tag on DraftKings, but we just don't have that news right now. So it's hard to go too in depth on him. I imagine that he was limited first game, that he's probably limited again, especially in a matchup against the Knicks. I mean, they could obviously just limit AD and still easily win this game. So I want to talk about some other power forwards and centers we could look to, or power forwards I should say. So DeAndre Ayton, 8,600 on DraftKings. He's pretty expensive today. He's been balling, though, as of late, especially since moving into the starting lineup. He started that game against the Knicks. That was his first game back into the starting lineup. And since then, he's played 35, 36, and 39 minutes, 59, 52, and 48 DraftKings points. DeAndre Ayton, he's definitely worth this salary. I still wouldn't consider him a core play, though. I think on Yahoo, that's where he really stands out. I mean, DeAndre Ayton looks like one of the best plays on Yahoo. Only $33 at center. Just comparing his price to some of the other centers, he's $1 less than Bam Adebayo. He's $3 less than Clint Capella, $5 less than Vucevic. Give me DeAndre Ayton over all those guys. I love Ayton today on Yahoo. This is actually a really good matchup. The Pacers are a team you can attack down low. They have struggled defending centers this season. And especially with Aaron Baines still out, DeAndre Ayton's going to get all the minutes. I mean, he's probably going to play 36 to 38 minutes again. So I love him on Yahoo, and I think on DK, he's still in play. Just wouldn't consider him a must-play by any means. Domantas Sabonis, though, I do like quite a bit at his DraftKings salary. Now, I'll be honest, this dude's absolutely burned me the last two slates. I played him, I think that was Friday night against Minnesota. 26 minutes, he was dealing with foul trouble a ton in that game. Only finished with 19 DK points. It was very tilting. He was one of my highest-owned players on that slate. I was pretty heavy on him again on MLK Day on Monday. 28 minutes against the Jazz, 21 DraftKings points. I mean, he's still too cheap on DraftKings. 7,900 for Sabonis is still way too cheap of a price tag, especially in a matchup against the Suns. This is one of the better matchups that he's had just the last few games. I'm going to be going to Sabonis on DK. Hopefully it doesn't come back to bite me. This is still a guy that I love to roster. I mean, he's one of the most consistent players in the league. I know he's been a little inconsistent recently, but you just look at the game log before those games. I mean, 58, 35, 53, 50, 47, 47, 47. This guy is so consistent. He's giving you 40 to 50 DraftKings points most nights. And against the Suns, this feels like a spot where Sabonis could drop another 50 burgers. So I really like him on DK at 7,900. I think on Yahoo, you can definitely play him as well. He's $37 at power forward. If I'm going to pay up at power forward, I would definitely play Sabonis over guys like Tatum, Siakam, John Collins, Julius Randle. Give me Sabonis over all those guys. But then other power forwards that we could look to on DK. I mean, Pascal Siakam does feel a little bit too cheap. 6,900 against the Sixers. Not a good matchup, but if we're going to get full minutes from Siakam, I mean, he's a really good option. He hasn't played full minutes since coming back from injury. 30, 30, 25, 24, and 29 minutes. Those have been his minute totals since coming back. He hasn't been great for fantasy. His best game was 37 DK points. So, I mean, maybe he's just shaking off the rust. If they're going to give Siakam his full minutes, 34 to 36 minutes, he'd be a really good option at 6,900. I definitely like taking a shot on him in tournaments. I think he's going to come in very low owned. So I do like Siakam quite a bit at his salary on DK. LaMarcus Aldridge, I think, really stands out as well at his salary on DraftKings, 6,800 in a pace-up matchup against the Pelicans. I do like him quite a bit as well. MPJ you could target, but like I said earlier, I have more interest in him on Yahoo. Marvin Bagley I want to talk about. He's up to 6,500 on DraftKings, which is pretty expensive. I mean, he was 5,400 on the last slate. He was very popular. Played 38 minutes in the starting lineup against Miami. Finished with 39 DraftKings points, 15 rebounds, 2 assists, and 1 steal. After that game, he did see over a $1,000 price increase, which is tough to pay. I mean, $6,500 for Bagley, that's what he should be priced at. But on Yahoo, I think that's where we can really get our exposure to Bagley. He's only $20. He's probably $5 to $10 too cheap over on Yahoo. I mean, at the beginning of the season, like, Bagley was a near $30 player. Since coming back from injury, since moving back into the starting lineup, like, he's been very productive. In his 4 games back from injury, he's put up at least 30 fantasy points in 3 of those 4 games. He's played at least 30 minutes in 3 of those 4 games. Like, I'm assuming Bagley gets 32 to 34 minutes today, if not more. He's going to be a very productive player. He averages over a fantasy point per minute. I really like him on Yahoo at only $20. I think he really stands out as one of the better power forward options to go to over there. On DK, with his price coming up, kind of similar to Michael Porter Jr., I'll probably look elsewhere with the price coming up. Other power forwards, though, with no Mason Plumlee, no Paul Millsap, like, I think we're going to see Jeremy Grant probably have to play 34, 36 minutes today. He's expensive at $5,600, but there's a chance he does get, like, backup center minutes, which would make him very appealing. I think he's a fine option to go to at $5,600. Like, Denver is going to be really thin today. I think that's something worth talking about. We did get news that Jamal Murray's going to be out. Paul Millsap's going to be out. Gary Harris is doubtful, and Mason Plumlee is going to be out. So that's 3 of their 5 starters that are going to be out, and then a bench guy that's going to play probably 18 to 20 minutes is also going to be out. So we should see guys like Monte Morris obviously still get a lot of run with Jamal Murray out, but, like, they're going to be really thin in the front court. I don't know if they're going to play, like, Hernan Gomez at the 4 some. I think we're going to see Jeremy Grant get a lot of run at center. Like, they're just really thin right now in the front court. So definitely have some interest in Jeremy Grant at $5,600, especially since Plumlee is out. But I think that's it for power forward. I guess we could talk about Zion. I mean, he's really cheap on DraftKings. He's $5K. We're never going to get Zion at this salary. Like, once he's fully healthy, he's going to be probably a $7 to $8K player most nights. This is his first game back from injury. He's expected to play about 15 to 20 minutes. I mean, he needs to be incredibly productive to pay off the salary in 15 to 20 minutes. Unless we get word otherwise that Zion's going to see like 25 minutes, then I'll have some interest in him. But assuming he plays 15 to 20 minutes, it's hard to consider him a good play at 5K. Even though he's a really good player and he's too cheap, he's just not going to get enough minutes today to where I want to roster him. So I think that's it for power forward, guys. Let's go ahead and talk about center real quick just before we end the video. So at center, as you can tell by the thumbnail, I do love Karl-Anthony Towns today. 10,400 against the Bulls. Over on Yahoo, if we look at their center pricing, he has $45 at center. Towns is one of my favorite guys to go to. I think he's going to come in low owned tonight, especially because his price tag is still up there. I mean, it's not like he's that cheap. He's still over 10K, 10,400. One thing, though, that's very intriguing, or very good to see, I should say, in his 3 games back from injury, he finally looked like himself in his last game against Denver. Got 35 minutes against the Nuggets and put up 50 DraftKings points. Had 28 points, 8 rebounds, 5 assists, 1 block, and 1 steal. Was just a really productive game from Cat overall. Given that he played 35 minutes in that game, I'm assuming he's back to full strength and going to play 34 to 36 minutes today, and arguably one of the best matchups you can get as a center. This Bulls team, defending centers, has been terrible this season. You look at any sort of DVP stats, they are one of the worst defensive teams versus centers. Overall, like rebounding, they're a terrible rebounding team as well. They rank 28th in rebound percentage. The Bulls, I think, are playing at a relatively fast pace. They're middle of the pack. They're 15th in pace, but we know the Timberwolves are going to play at a fast pace. I love Towns in this matchup. I think this is a spot where he could easily go for over 60 DraftKings points. Given that he played 35 minutes last game, I'm assuming he's back to full strength. And, I mean, when Towns was at full strength earlier in the season, like, this was a guy that was playing 36 to 38 minutes a night. He was 10,400, 10,600 most nights, putting up 50 to 60 DK points most nights. So, love going to Towns today, especially in tournaments. I think he is going to come in low owned. One of my favorite center options overall, and just one of my favorite plays overall on tonight's slate. But there are some other centers you could look to. We're definitely going to need to keep an eye on the status of Andre Drummond. It's a lip injury for him. He's questionable with a lip injury. I believe he got hit in the face wound up losing a tooth in their last game. We don't know yet if he's going to play. I'm assuming he does play. Like, I wouldn't think he would sit out unless it was like maybe he got concussed, which it doesn't seem like that's the case given that they listed him questionable because of a lip injury. So I'm assuming Drummond plays. Obviously, if he's out, though, that would open up some value with maybe Christian Wood, who we could talk about. But, like, I'm assuming Drummond goes. If he does play, I mean, he's still in play for me at 9,400. Like I said earlier, I really like Karl-Anthony Towns, but with Blake Griffin out, I mean, Drummond's going to continue to put up big numbers. He's going to play big minutes most nights. Most nights he's giving you 45 to 50 DraftKings points, if not more. So at at 9,400, you could definitely go to Drummond. Jokic, I do like quite a bit in a fast-paced game against the Rockets in a pace-up spot. With no Mason Plumlee, like Jokic might have to play near 40 minutes tonight. I mean, he's been getting big minutes already, but with no Plumlee, like he's probably getting 36 minutes tonight. I expect him to be very productive on a point-per-minute basis. Like, the Nuggets are just so thin right now. The offense is going to run through Jokic and Will Barton. We're going to see a lot of those two guys do a lot of the heavy lifting. So I do have some interest in Jokic. I talked about Ayton earlier. I do like him quite a bit. Bam Adebayo, you could play against the Wizards, but with Jimmy Butler coming back, Bam Adebayo isn't a must by any means. It is a really good matchup, though, against the Wizards. That is one of the better matchups that you can get as a center. Siakam, I think, is really underpriced. Talked about him. LaMarcus Aldridge, I think, remains underpriced at 6,800. If Kawhi Leonard winds up resting on the second end of a back-to-back and Paul George is out as well, like Montrezl Harrell, I would have a ton of interest in against the Hawks for 6,800. We will definitely need to keep an eye on that heading into Wednesday's slate. Joe Val, I have some interest in against Boston. We know the kind of upside that Joe Val has. Boston's definitely a team you can attack down low. Like, if Joe Val's going to see 15 to 20 minutes of Enes Kanter defense, like, he should absolutely be able to go off in that time period. So I do like him. Going to need to watch the status of Derek Favors. He's questionable. I believe Jahlil Okafor is questionable as well. We saw Jackson Hayes get the start last game with both those guys out, but he wasn't very productive. We'll talk about him in a little bit, but I still think he'd be a really good value play if Favors winds up sitting. Jeremy Grant you could look to. Expect him to get a lot of minutes, play some center minutes today with Plumlee out. But Miles Turner, he's a guy that really stands out to me on DraftKings. He's only 5K at center against the Suns. I mean, I think you can play Sabonis and Turner together. I don't think that's like bad at all. I don't think that's bad correlation. Both guys do project pretty well for their salaries, I would assume. Like Turner, this is a guy that's going to give you 25 to 30 DraftKings points most nights. Playing alongside Domantas Sabonis, like, he's not nearly as productive. In terms of rebounding, his rebounding numbers are not nearly as good when Sabonis is on the floor. But Turner will get some time during the game where Sabonis is off the floor because we know Sabonis will play a lot of backup center minutes, or will get a lot of backup center minutes. I mean, like 30, 27, 35, 24, kind of scratch that game against Chicago. That was a game where Sabonis was out. 35, 25. Like, this is a guy that's giving you 25 to 30 DraftKings points most nights, if not more. It's a really good matchup against the Suns, and he's only 5K. Very cheap price tag. I do like Miles Turner quite a bit at his DK salary. I think he looks like one of the better center plays in terms of value overall on this slate. I definitely have interest in him. I think Marc Gasol you could look to as well, 4,800. I had a lot of interest in him on, I think that was Friday's slate against the Wizards. He had a monster game, 42 DraftKings points in 29 minutes. Since then, the minutes have been down, the production's been down, but he's still really cheap today, only 4,800. I think you could definitely consider Marc Gasol as a value play as well. I feel a little bit better about Turner. I think Turner gives you a little bit more upside, especially in his matchup, much better spot. But Gasol's in play for me for sure. I mean, Enes Kanter, I was hating on him in terms of his defense, but as an offensive player, Enes Kanter is really good. 24 minutes last game against the Lakers, was very productive, 34 DraftKings points in 24 minutes. Like, this guy's been like 5K, 5,500 most nights. He's down to 4,500 after going through a little bit of a slump. Like, if we're going to get 24 to 26 minutes of Enes Kanter today at 4,500, he's definitely in play in a pace-up matchup against the Grizzlies. So you could look to him as a center value. If both Derek Favors and Jahlil Okafor are out, that'll be something to monitor. The Pelicans could potentially be without two of their centers. Nikola Melli, he did have a really good game last game with both Favors and Okafor out. Played 29 minutes, had 29 DraftKings points. We did see Jackson Hayes get the start, however, and he's only 4K today. Like, if Jackson Hayes starts again, I know he burned a lot of people the last slate, but at 4K, I definitely like him as a value option, assuming Favors and Okafor are both out. I think you could consider him as a value center. Sucks that he's only center eligible, but still he's really cheap on DraftKings, so he's worth rostering. Christian Wood would obviously be a really good value play if Drummond is out, but we'll just kind of have to wait and see there. Both Nerlens Noel and Steven Adams are questionable. If both those guys wind up out, Mike Muscala, 3,500 would be a top value play. I think Nerlens Noel's really cheap, so if Adams is out and Noel plays, he's really cheap at 4,400. Like, there's still a lot of injuries we need to watch, especially at center with like the Pelicans guys, the OKC guys. There's a lot of injuries here we'll have to watch, and potentially with Kawhi maybe resting, that could open up some value at center as well. With like Montrezl Harrell, Zubac maybe get some more run if Kawhi's out. I expect him to be very productive. Just overall, this Clippers team could be a team worth targeting today. Like, if Paul George and Kawhi are both out, Lou Will, Harrell, Beverly, John Michael Green, like Zubac, these guys would all be in play as values. They're still really cheap. I mean, Green's 4,400, which isn't like dirt cheap, but if he's going to play near 30 minutes, he would be in play for me as a value. So a lot of injuries to watch. Favors, questionable. Okafor's questionable. Kawhi Leonard could potentially miss second inning of a back-to-back. Paul George, we'll have to see if he plays. We'll have to see what kind of minutes limit Zion's on. I think there's even some more injuries that we need to watch. Andre Drummond, questionable. Yeah, just a lot of stuff to watch. Jaylen Brown, questionable. We'll have to watch that heading into Wednesday's slate, Wednesday afternoon. Like I said at the beginning of the video, guys, I do post a lot of updates, and I do give a lot of updated plays over on Patreon. If you want to check out all the exclusive content I do have to offer over there, get access to my article where I write pretty much all my favorite plays at each position, write up all my favorite plays. I do post updates in that article as well, so I'm giving you all my favorite plays throughout the day as injury news breaks. All that can be found over on Patreon. You can get in our Discord chat where we're talking through the slate. We're talking through the slate throughout the day. I'm answering questions as well, just trying to help you guys build out your lineups. If you also enjoyed these videos, I do really appreciate your guys' support on this YouTube channel. Make sure you drop a like and subscribe if you have not yet. Click the notification bell so that way you do get notified every time I upload. You can also follow me on Twitter, link down below. Also, my Patreon is linked down below as well. But anyways, guys, good luck tonight. Thanks so much for supporting. Thanks for watching the video. We'll see you in the next one. Peace.